Hello again to another session of our Tamkin International Talks. We are welcoming Dr. Cornelia Walter. Dr. Cornelia will talk today about pro-social AI shaping a human-centered future for Morocco. We're very happy and glad to have you here, Dr. Cornelia. Thank you. And we'll be starting.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Maybe in terms of background, I've been working with the UN for 20 years, wrote a bunch of books, and have been working on pro-social AI and hybrid intelligence since 2021. So before ChatGPT became the label that is now scotched on everything. I'm presently based in Malaysia, and I'm also working with the UN in Morocco. And if ever any of the ideas that I'm talking about are of interest to you, please feel free to reach out either now or afterwards via LinkedIn. Also, if you have questions, please unmute yourself or put your questions in the chat. I will seek to not talk more than about half an hour maximum, maybe 20 minutes, and then we can have an exchange afterward. Pro-social AI is the topic of today. And in a snapshot, this is the logic that underpins what I'm going to talk about. Social change is the cause and consequence of individual change, and natural intelligence, NI, is the cause of artificial intelligence. What we need to make sure is that it does not become its consequence. Which leads us to the big question, how can we harness AI to bring out the best in and for people and planet? And just one clarification, since AI is now everywhere, it is different from technology in general. And also, what I'm going to focus on in particular is generative AI. So the type of token and large language model technology that has been around since November 2022 with the launch of ChatGPT. Now, what is the difference between AI and pro-social AI? This is the logic of everything that I'm going to say. AI is neutral. It's a mean to an end, not an end in itself. And at the end of the day, the outcomes depend on people and systems. So the old saying, garbage in, garbage out, still holds true. We can't expect from the technology of tomorrow to be better than the humans of today. And we have a choice in that regard. We can turn the dynamic towards values in, values out. But that depends on all of us, and that requires AI systems to be deliberately tailored, trained, tested, and targeted to bring out the best in and for people and planet. That requires agency, which is defined as the ability and volition to take independent action and the perception of that ability. Because to make AI a force for good, we need to be aware of its implications. And that, in a hybrid era, requires hybrid intelligence, which arises from the complementarity of AI and NI, so artificial and natural intelligence. And to harness those systematically, we need double literacy, not just AI literacy or digital literacy, but on the one hand, human literacy, a holistic understanding of self and society, people and planet, and algorithmic literacy, not just prompt engineering, but what AI is, what its limitations are, and how it influences how we think, feel, and interact. Because to be proactive in a hybrid world requires a 360-degree perspective of life, online, and off-screen. So this is the logic of this talk, what this is all about, who humans as the cause and consequence of social change, why the 4x4 dimensions that underpin natural intelligence, and where the state of AI. So in a snapshot, this is what I just described. The where, AI comes in many forms, and it has been around for many decades. But AI is increasingly everywhere. Now, one could argue that the microwave that has been around probably since you were a child is a form of very rudimentary artificial intelligence. But the one that we're particularly interested in nowadays is the recognition of text, video, photo, and the production thereof. And without any doubt, it can save lives, alleviate suffering, increase knowledge, and expand service access from education to health, to protection, to governance. But it also comes with a range of big challenges, from the challenge of bias, where it is recognized that certain gender and certain colors are more at risk to be misidentified. Deep fakes, nowadays, everything that's on screen can be fake or created by AI, to be more precise. Bubbles. The social media bubbles have been a challenge for democracy and the expression of free speech ever since Twitter started, and one could even say since Facebook began. But now with AI, that is supercharged, especially since the production of material that is sophisticated and yet mass in its distribution does not cost much anymore. And finally, the challenge of manipulation. Various studies have shown that AI is extremely persuasive, and it is trained to be liked by users. So this chatbot that always tells you that you are fantastic is trained to be liked. And AI is getting ever better. This is the Stanford AI Index from 2024. And you can see that already at the time, AI was nearly on par with human beings for the majority of functions. There were some exceptions to logical thinking and to math. But since then, millions of people have used the different platforms. And that means more people means more data. And more data means better algorithms. So this is the index of 2025, and you can see that now the tool is better than the human being in several applications. It's still not what general human beings can do, but it is getting exponentially and very fast ever better. But then I would argue that the intelligence in artificial intelligence is actually a misnomer. Because if we go back to the definition, intelligence is the broad mental capacity to reason, learn, problem solve, and understand complex ideas. So far, so good. But the natural form of intelligence is biologically evolved, and it is the cause and consequence of living organisms that allows to perceive, learn, reason, and adapt. So it's this organically evolving kaleidoscope that each of us is and is part of. Whereas artificial intelligence is the result of simulation. It is computer systems that are designed to simulate aspects of human intelligence, such as visual perception, decision making, and language processing. And the key word here is to simulate. AI is a mirror of human beings. So our intelligence emerges from complex biological interactions that have been shaped by genetic and environmental factors over millennia, whereas artificial intelligence is man-made and based on programming. In a sense, AI and NI are therefore very different, but maybe not so much. Because if we look at us, each of us is a combination of aspirations, emotions, thoughts, and sensations. What we experience shapes what we want, how we feel, what we think, and how we experience the world, which then influences how we express ourselves, which influences future expressions, and so on. It's an ongoing cycle of experience and expression. Inside shapes the outside, which then influences the inside. Now, if we take that to AI, one could say that functions influence modeling, influence interferences, influence processing, and input, again, shapes what is happening, which then influences what's the output, and so on. Ergo, AI is as good or as bad as the humans that use it, us. And we cannot expect tomorrow's technology to reflect values that humans today do not manifest. Garbage in, garbage out, values in, values out. It's a choice. Which takes us to the first reframing that I would suggest in the current AI hype. From AI as an abstract threat or a pure business opportunity to AI as a latent catalyst for individual and planetary well-being, and a reframing of our mindset from disempowerment among AI to systematic choices of AI utilization, agency. AI is not happening to us, but it's happening with and among and because of us. So agency, if we were to go back to the definition, it's the desire and ability to choose and the power to affect or influence our circumstances. And the choices we make are the chances we do or not take, which then determines if we're on our way up to the next zenith or on our way down to the next nadir. And in a hybrid world, everything is connected. Already our soul, heart, mind, and body, our aspirations, emotions, thoughts, and sensations influence each other. And each of us, as part of a community, country, and the planet, is cause and consequence of an evolving social dynamic. But now AI is influencing all of these interplays, and it is influenced by these interplays. It is really important to keep in mind these interplays, that they are constantly ongoing, and that no matter what we do can have the famous butterfly effect, where a small choice triggers large-scale effects. So what? I would argue that we're currently navigating a very dangerous transition in our relationship with AI. We have passed the stage of experimentation. We are into the field of integration, and we're just one step away from reliance, which means we're just half a step away from addiction. Now, I don't know about you. I didn't have one of those little friends when I was a child. Ergo, I still remember the phone number of my grandmother, when I was 5 years old. Today, I barely remember my own. Google Maps. When did you last time use a map on paper to find your way? But these are isolated functions in the brain. With ChatGPT and other tools of that sort, it is possible to have a general purpose technology that takes off any cognitive effort. And that is, although convenient, but it's also very, very dangerous. Now, we are the last analog generation that still has the possibility to compare the pre and post ChatGPT era. The next generation will not have that. What does that mean? What kind of algorithmic architecture do we need to leave behind in order to give them a chance to fulfill their full potential, to develop their brain to its fullest potential. Because we had the opportunity for our brain to grow against friction. And it's a muscle. We use it or we lose it. What obligation does that leave to us towards the next generation? Now, if we're to take that to the institutional setting, a lot of the promises of the early generative AI boom were around AI freeing up space and time for people to spend more energy on creative thinking and strategic problem solving. De facto, enterprises and employers have very quickly adjusted to the opportunities of generative AI. The expectations are higher, and employees are expected to deliver more, faster, and in a 24/7 cycle. The expectations got locked in very quickly, and there is not more time, but less. And as a consequence, even those that were at the beginning reluctant to use AI now have hardly any choices to produce what they are expected to produce without artificial help. So we're currently navigating a dangerous tipping point zone whereby agency decay at the individual level is coinciding with the mainstreaming of AI by institutions that are afraid to be left behind the AI trend, the race towards AI supremacy, not just by the tech giants, but also by governments, and finally, the planetary deterioration. Because AI, even though there are many free tools, it has a huge environmental footprint. Nothing is for free. And the use of energy, land, and water for ever bigger data centers has consequences. Already there are more and more reports of communities in remote areas where data centers have been built, from Spain to the US to Mexico, that find themselves afflicted by energy blackouts and water cuts because the priority is given to the new data centers that were created in their neighborhoods. But what does that say about us as a society if we give priority to data centers over humans? So the ABCD of less talked about AI issues, agency decay, we mentioned already, bond erosion, the fact that AI companionship is becoming something which is very convenient and commonplace, because that chatbot that is always available, patient, friendly, and always tells us how fantastic we are, why would you bother with another human being that is just as quirky and cumbersome as you are yourself? And in a couple of years, maybe those chatbots will be embodied in robots that look exactly the way you always envisioned your dream partner. The climate conundrum, well, the environmental consequences, and finally, divided society. We are currently experiencing the AI hype in a very small, privileged bubble. Because even though there are millions and millions new users every month, there's still a couple of billion people out there that are struggling to have enough to eat, clean water, and electricity every day. And having worked with UNICEF in many of those places where the conditions are very dire, I have seen that. It might feel abstract reading about it, but it is not. And we need to be aware of these circumstances on a global planet, and that maybe those who could benefit the most from radical change are those that are the least likely to benefit from that change that can come with AI. So coming back to the issue of misinformation, without facts, we can't have truth, and without truth, we can't have trust. But without trust, we have no shared reality, no democracy, and it becomes impossible to deal with our world's existential problems. But the fact that billions of people are struggling to survive in dignity is part of the world's existential problems. And on a shared planet, that means it's our all problem. So here's an alternative. ProSocial AI. AI systems that are deliberately tailored, trained, tested, and targeted to bring out the best in and for people and planet. It's tailored for cultural diversity and local communities. It's trained in a responsible way with representative data that protects privacy. It's rigorously tested for unintended effects, and it is targeted explicitly on strengthening social bonds and sustainability. And the underpinning goal is to harness it as a catalyst for positive transformation. So if you remember nothing from this talk, but these 4 T, that might have been time well spent. Because pro-social AI avoids addiction and activates agency. It is pro-people, pro-planet, and ultimately for the potential of all of us. However, it requires HI, hybrid intelligence, which is the result of natural and artificial intelligence that are harnessed in complementarity, which requires, as we said before, double literacy, a 360-degree understanding of ourselves and the society that we're part of. So we need to curate a double mindset with NI and AI, and at the sweet spot of it, HI. Because that is going to be the key condition of agency amidst AI for all of us. And in the best case scenario, hybrid intelligence is going to take us to a space that neither AI nor NI could reach alone, which is hybrid creativity. This is just a recap of certain terms that you might have come across hearing about AI. There's a lot talking about AI, obviously, which is the pure functional version, that is the commercial version. Then is ethical AI, which is reactive and seeks to avoid harm. There's AI for good, which is an application for certain limited functions. And then there is pro-social AI, which is the proactive paradigm that I've been talking about here, with hybrid intelligence as a symbiosis. So pro-social AI is at the core of what the different intelligences can be. And if we want to go even one step beyond to the peak of our intelligence pyramid, we arrive at AI for IA, which is artificial intelligence for inspired action, or pro-social AI that is harnessed with the specific ambition to curate and cultivate the aspiration in each of us to bring out and share our own best self. The underpinning logic of pro-social AI is the respect for cultural diversity and local value systems, and the intent anchored in the golden rule, or better yet, the platinum rule: do not do to others what you don't want to have done to yourself, and avoid what you don't want to suffer. But do it with awareness of the circumstances, and that what others want might not be what you would desire. And if we really take that forward, then ProSocial AI is going to be a win-win-win-win for the human we are, the community we belong to, the country we are part of, and the planet we depend on. That requires, however, double alignment, because the humans that we want to be need to start building the technology that helps us getting there. And as you can see, agency is the underpinning logic of everything that we want to achieve. And it is the condition of AI for IA. This is just a recap of what I just said. And with this, I'm coming to the end and I open it up for questions. Any questions, comments?
Thank you, Dr. Cornelia. I think we'll be receiving some questions here. Please, if you have any questions, send it to the chat.
Thank you for the questions, Mr. Mina Bajaji. Or do you want to read maybe, Sinep, the question?
Yeah, of course. First question, how can collaboration between government, industry, and civil society be strengthened to support ProSocial AI initiatives?
So I think the question is to create safe spaces where people who usually don't meet each other can come together and think about solutions that support this type of ProSocial AI initiative, and to bring together people who think about the same issues but come from very different backgrounds and that usually talk in their respective communities and silos but do not meet. Next.
Thank you. How can we measure the real social impact of AI solutions once they are implemented?
One way is to use the ProSocial AI index, so the 4 T's that I mentioned before, and to systematically track to which extent the 4 T's have been applied, the tailor, trained, tested, targeted. And if you're interested, please feel free to reach out. We are currently developing that index. Next.
What role can Moroccan universities and research centers play in advancing ProSocial AI?
A big role, and I'm actually excited to work with some universities already. And if you are at one of them, please, or if you think that there's space at your university, please reach out. It can be integrated in curricula. There can be space for research projects. There can be space for exactly this kind of safe space where collaboration between like-minded thinkers from different parts of the society happens. There are a lot of possibilities, and universities are probably amongst the best place to make that happen. Next.
Okay, a question from Ismail, who's asking how can citizens' privacy be protected while still using data for social good?
I think 2 aspects that are really important in that are transparency, so that citizens know what their data is being used for and why and what's the objective, and 2, to leave them a choice. Right now, that is not the case with most AI applications from the commercial arena, where it is in the small print what is happening with your data, and either you use it and you give your consent, or you can't use it. And I think that is one of those blackmail approaches that should not be common practice.
Thank you. If anyone please have another question. I think that's all, Dr. Cornelia.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much for your insightful work. presentation. We were very pleased to have you.
It has been a
Yeah,
pleasure.
thank you very much.
Bye bye.